Hello, my name is Shay Wallach. My pronouns are he and him, and I serve as the Assistant Director of Inclusion at the NCAA National Office. On behalf of my teammates in the Office of Inclusion, I welcome you to today's program that is part one of our Global Perspective webinar, International Student Athletes Navigating Current Events in the United States. Before we jump in, I'd like to extend a message of support to the entire collegiate athletics community. We currently live in a troubling reality on multiple fronts, as the past few months have been loaded with confusion and grief over the overwhelming loss of lives around the world, in the US and across campuses caused by COVID-19. As we all continue to battle the pandemic by putting safety front and center, we encourage you to remain vigilant and alert, and to carry on with the rigorous efforts that are needed in order to ensure the well-being of students, student athletes, coaches, administrators, and fans. We can only do this if we remain united. With that, I'd like to kickstart our discussion. There are more than 20,000 international student athletes studying and competing at NCAA institutions. Student athletes who leave behind families, friends, and the only way of living that is known to them, only to embark on a journey to the unknown. International student athletes enrich our campuses with an undeniable abundance of cultural wealth and a valuable diversity of thought, while strengthening the delicate fabric of the entire global village. Yet, with oceans and borders separating them from their networks of support, these courageous young folks face a wide array of challenges that are often distinct from the challenges domestic student athletes experience. Language barriers, lack of societal and cultural knowledge, and mental health hurdles are just some of the obstacles in their paths toward a better future. However, do we really consider the unique needs of this population as often as we should? This webinar was planned prior to the recent Department of Homeland Security rules on the international students, rules that were fortunately rescinded last week. But the heightened attention the rules attracted also carries an opportunity for all of us to improve by learning about the experience of a population that is often overlooked. And there is no one better to tell us about these experiences than those who live them, our own international student athletes, who I'm excited and humbled to give the stage to today. Just as a reminder, the audience may submit questions to the panel throughout the hour through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted soon on ncaa.org. And now, to my colleague and your moderator for today, Jean Merrill. Over to you, Jean.
Thanks so much, Shay. Really appreciate the introductions. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jean Merrill. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm Director of Inclusion at the NCAA, and I'm honored to moderate this afternoon's panel as our guests discuss their experiences and perspectives as international student athletes and administrators around the COVID-19 pandemic, racial injustice in the United States, and navigating complex regulatory requirements to live, study, and work in the United States. So without further ado, let's jump right into the introductions. First of all, we have Wasila Yusuf. Wasila is a women's track and field student athlete at Smith College, majoring in engineering and minoring in Arabic. She's a native of Ghana and speaks 6 different languages and credits athletics as helping her overcome a challenging upbringing. Today, Wasila serves as a house community advisor on campus while interning as a software engineer with a startup company dedicated to enhancing lives through neurostimulators. Kelvin Simon is a men's track and field student athlete hailing from the island of Antigua and Barbuda in the Caribbean region. A senior at Johnson C. Smith University and the president of its Student Athlete Advisory Committee, Kelvin's continuous leadership on campus reflects his commitment to keeping students engaged through events that promote sports, physical fitness, and education. Next, we have Valentine Percy. Valentine is a women's soccer student athlete from England, attending Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. Valentine is a senior pursuing a degree in sports management and is interning with elite athletic Athletic Trend, a nonprofit organization focused on community development through youth leadership programs, while also serving as an assistant women's soccer coach with the Indiana Olympic Development Program. Moving into more of our administrators, we have Ayushi Chouhan. Ayushi is a former women's tennis student athlete from India who graduated with honors from Delaware State University. At Delaware State, Ayushi earned a degree in sports management, interned in athletics compliance, and won multiple academic excellence scholarships and awards, including the 2019 NCAA Accelerating Academic Success Programs Career Development Award. Ayushi went on to serve as a compliance assistant at Morgan State University and has recently started as a graduate assistant with the Center for Global Engagement at the University of Indianapolis, where she'll pursue her master's degree in sports management. And lastly, we have Dr. Maya Oseri. Maya is the executive director of the Cooper Athletics Leadership Program at Georgetown University. Beyond her duties as a senior staff member with Georgetown Athletics, Maya currently serves as a sport industry management adjunct instructor, and over the last few years has been a lead facilitator for the NCAA Leadership Forum and the NCAA Leadership Academy Workshop. A native of Israel and a former member of its national women's soccer team, Maya competed as a student athlete for Barry University, where she earned an undergraduate degree in psychology and a master's degree with a specialization in sports and exercise psychology. She then went on to earn her PhD in organizational leadership at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. And as a fun little fact for Maya, she was actually featured on the inaugural cover of NCAA Champion magazine for her leadership as a student athlete and promoting women's sports in Israel. So if you want to check that out, it's the Winter 2008 first edition. So welcome everyone. Wanted to make sure our participants had a good sense of who you were and where you're from and what you do. But let's jump right into the questions. For all of my panelists, and I'm going to go in the order in which I see you in my gallery view. So I'll start with Ayushi. Can you talk to us about how you're doing personally? So to the extent that you feel comfortable, can you talk about what your current situation is? Maybe you're in your home country, maybe you're here in the United States, and maybe sharing a little bit about what it means to you to be an international student athlete.
For sure. Thank you for the opportunity, first of all. And I'm kind of in the middle of the transition from, completing my optional practical training to now moving forward, going to University of Indianapolis for my master's. So this is the month when I'm actually doing nothing. And I'm grateful for having my friends here who could actually give me some space and I could spend some time with them here. But I was actually supposed to be in India this month of July because, again, my contract ended on June 30th, and I had kind of like a free month, and it has been more than 2 years since I have seen my family. So this was a very, family time for me. But at the same time, when the pandemic happened and all the international flights were canceled to and fro India, so I was stuck here. But again, I'm grateful for the opportunity I've been receiving, and this is the time when it's like really busy for me doing all the paperwork and visa and I-20 related to my new school. So definitely a busy time, but at the same time, I feel like it could have been better if, just for some time I could see my family.
Kelvin, I see you next. Do you want to share?
All right. Hey, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. And where I am currently, I'm doing pretty fine. I'm in America. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm working at Popeyes, as you can see. So I have a steady income coming in. As Ayushi said, today this was supposed to be family time for me as well, but I chose not to go back home due to the fact that I was fearful of carrying the coronavirus back to my country. I got tested; it said negative, but I still don't plan on traveling anytime soon because I want to avoid, making it any worse back in my home country. Miss my mom and family, but I'm good where I am right now for the time being. I'll see them in like Christmas time around that.
And Wasila.
Oh, thank you for giving me this chance to talk about myself. So currently I would say I'm doing fine. Everything is going on well. I'm living with a friend here in Cambridge in America for support. It was really difficult when school was like we were asked to go home and there was no family member for me to go with. So it was like crazy. But I got a friend to help me out and everything. So currently I am interning with a company with my professor at Smith College, and I'm doing well. And the only problem I have is constantly thinking about my family, whether they are fine, is everything okay? Like that is the only problem. But yeah, for me, I believe prayer does everything. So I'm just praying that they are safe until I'm able to go back and see them maybe in December when everything is like has subdued a little. So that is my state right now.
Thank you. And Valentine, how are you?
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm actually on the flip side of things. I'm back in England, in my home country. Wasn't a planned kind of return. In March, I just decided it was the best decision to go home, and I've been here since. It's been a whirlwind, a roller coaster of kind of emotions, but I'm doing well now, and I think we're getting some positive news going forward. So hopefully I'll be back in the States soon. But in the meantime, I've been spending time with family. Luckily, I have a great support system here back home, and I've been doing my internship with Elite Athletic Trends. So it's been great to kind of have that kind of connection still with the US and with my team as well. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting back and get going again this fall, hopefully.
That's great. I think that's certainly something we're all hoping for all of our student athletes, without a doubt. Maya, as a former student athlete, how are you doing?
It's again, like everyone said, thank you so much for hosting this. Eugene, Shai, and then the NCAA Inclusion Office. It's so funny. Like such a simple question has become so loaded in the last couple months. I'm doing well. I'm actually calling in from Toronto, from Canada, where I have family. My family actually is in Israel, but I have other family in Canada. But I live in the U.S. and work at Georgetown. So I think, for me as a staff member, similar to the students, taking day by day, checking in with family here in Canada and then in Israel, and recognizing what a global pandemic actually means and how it's impacting different people in different ways. So looking forward to speaking today.
Thanks so much. So let's jump into the next question. And this is for, if we could have Kelvin and Wasila and Valentine speak on this. How were you and your teammates impacted by the very abrupt end to your season and academic semester due to the COVID-19 pandemic?
I guess I'll just hop on real quick. I'll go first. My teammates, not only my teammates, but also like other student athletes on my campus, they were very disappointed due to the fact that they weren't able to like have a season this year, or a proper season. Like for track and field, our season was ended up abruptly around getting close to indoors and finishing outdoors. So some of my friends went to nationals, and their nationals were canceled due to the fact that Corona was out there, and they said they didn't want to like cause any more cases to like get worse. And so I know one of my friends had an emotional break. It was her first time going to nationals, and she kind of like broke down. I spoke to her. She said everything was fine, but it took a toll on the majority of them. But they're slowly getting back to the swing of things. We still keep in contact. We still train. We make sure everyone is up to point with where they need to be when they get back to school, if sports were to start back up again. So hopefully sports start back up again. Fingers are crossed, and we're just being positive.
Great. And Wasila, you want to share next?
Yeah, for me, it's like a total different experience. There was a lot of disappointment among the team. People were crying and stuff. Like people have already set up goals to achieve this semester because our team is like evolving. So everybody is dedicated to make something for the team. Like, so the team being like the sports being abruptly ending caused a lot of like emotions and stuff. But personally, I was really, really hurt because during I do the track and field team and like sports. So I couldn't compete in the indoor season because I was injured, like my groins, and I do like triple jump and hurdles, which like involves widening my legs. So it's like I was injured and I was stopped. So I was hoping to partake the outdoor, and then I was told that we cannot do that. So it was really harsh for me. I have to like sit down and think about it and gather myself and like console myself because it was going for training every day and then you being told that you can't do it because there's a global pandemic was really traumatic for me. So I'm still getting over it. I'm trying to like get back in shape and then start it. Should there be another one, like another season next year, I'll be like ready for it. So yeah.
Thank you. And Valentine, any thoughts?
So for me, I mean, it wasn't our main season, so it was a bit easier to swallow not having our full season cancelled, but obviously dealing with that now and the uncertainty of that. But in the spring, it was more dealing with, we were building momentum, and then obviously everything was cut short in March, and it was dealing with going home. But for me, going back to England and transitioning to all online school and the time difference was something that I had to deal with and talk to my professors, and the team definitely struggled at the beginning with knowing, okay, what do we do now? But we connected over Zoom. I think that became the new norm. We all had Zoom calls and talked and stayed connected that way. So I think it was just leaning on each other, and no one really knew kind of where we were going next, but it was the idea that we were doing it together, I think, was the main thing that we focused on, and we still focus on going ahead into the fall.
Great, thank you so much. You know, it's interesting, the pandemic has impacted, for a lot of people, it's impacted us in very similar ways. And in other ways, it's impacted our international student athletes in such unique ways. And so my next question is about the regulatory piece of this. So specifically, Ayushi and Wasila and Valentine, if you could touch on this question. How have you been impacted by the recent visa regulations that were put forth by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security a couple weeks ago, which were then thankfully rescinded last week? And for our audience, just to give you a sense of what these regulations and these rules were, essentially it would have required, there were several rules and regulations, but the one that was most impacting our international students and student athletes was the requirement that everyone be enrolled in at least one in-person course. So if you all could talk about that and maybe any other kind of regulatory impact.
So, well, my program at University of Indianapolis was hybrid anyway. So the only question I had from the international office was if the hybrid program was impacted as well. But like in the guidelines, it was clearly mentioned that hybrid programs have an exception. But at the same time, we also had to confirm if the university itself is going online completely. And that time they were still in the process of deciding if it's going online or we would have some in-person classes. And I'm grateful that the president of University of Indianapolis actually assured all the international students that we would find a way out of this. So it is not like, oh, I'm sorry about this, and you know, some students would have to go back home. But there was a peace of mind that we would have a solution for this. But in a lot of other universities, I know from my teammates or from my friends back home who are here on a tennis scholarship as well, they were confused because they were getting like mixed signals. The athletic director is telling them something else, and the coaches having different expectations. So I believe the more communication the athletic department could have with the international student athletes, and that's what we were doing at Morgan State as well, basically just assuring all the international student athletes who are already back home that things would get better. It's not like we are not seeing how is it impacting you, but also we would make sure that we have a solution for this. So I'm glad that I had that support, and my program was fortunately hybrid.
Yeah, unfortunately, my school, like college, was hybrid. So, but then for me, the classes I already registered for were online classes. So when it comes to the regulation, I definitely have to go home. So it was really traumatic again. So I was just thinking, what if I go, because I'm in my final year, what if I go home and then the spring semester 2 is like online? So me, I'm done. I have to stay there. Like my life, how is it going to be? So I was really traumatized and everything. But then hopefully, as Aishi said, like her professors or the people were just encouraging her, like trying to give assurance they're going to find ways out of this. Like similarly, I got that. My coaches called me and they talked to me and stuff. And it was really encouraging that there was support out there. People didn't agree with whatever the regulation was just talking about. So they were trying to find out ways to support us. And one thing I liked the most was like they assuring us that they're gonna find a way out of this. Like it lessened my traumatize, like my problem and everything. So it was a really roller coaster for me to go through, but I think now everything is fine. I'm hoping that it gets better from here too. Yeah.
Yeah, so similar to both of them. Mine was a hybrid. IPI was going to be hybrid, but you had to kind of look into your own personal schedule, because my classes, I'm taking 4 this fall and 3 of them are all online. So if that last one was all online, then I wouldn't have been able to get back. So that would have been something to process, and it was scary not knowing, okay, are my schedule going to change halfway through the semester? Will it go all online? Will I then have to leave? So, because obviously it's a big commitment to fly out and stay out there. So it was unknown whether I'd have to halfway through the semester fly back home. But now with it being rescinded, that hopefully I'm going to fly out and I'm going to get back. And whether that's a full season for soccer or if it's just academics, I'm glad to get the opportunity to go back out and have the choice to go back out rather than that being taken away from us. But I'm definitely excited to now be allowed to go back. I know that some friends they were being told, expect to see you in January, and processing that was hard to think about. I was like, I can't imagine. I mean, I love my family, but staying here until January might have been a bit much for me. But yeah, excited to get back out now. We have the option.
Thank you. You all touched on the support that you've been getting from your coaches, your administrators. So my next question for Valentine, Kelvin, and Wasila, as international student athletes, what support have you received so far from your athletics community? So that could be coaches, that could be your teammates, that could be athletics administrators, that could even be fans. Can you talk about what that's been like?
Yeah, I can go first for this one. So from the beginning, I mean, in March, when I quickly had to decide to go home, I called my coach and was like, hey, this is kind of what's happening. I'm going to fly home. I'm not too sure how this will impact us. And we just talked to each other and were like, okay, that's fine. I think it's best for you to go home. And we addressed it. And then as time progressed, we stayed in contact. A lot of the time it was kind of me reaching out, but once I did reach out, they were very responsive and listened to me and were like, okay, how can we help? And they helped me every way they could. And through this process, they've been very transparent and honest, which is something that I really appreciate. I know that through all of this, not everyone knows the answers. There's 101 answers that could possibly be like told to me. And I appreciate that they just said, okay, we don't know anything right now, but we're here for you. I think that's the main thing, is just being there for each other and reaching out. My close friends and players on the team have all, once this regulation came out, have all been checking in on me and be like, how are you doing? Can you come back? And when can you come back? And keep me posted on your progress. So I think they've been good and responsive, and honest is the main thing that I've appreciated through all of this.
Who I've been speaking to in general are just my teammates. Mainly, I haven't gotten in contact with my coach. But my teammates, we motivate each other, so we can, as I said in the last question, we push each other to like go and work out. So we have faith that there will be another season to come up before we finish our senior year and whatnot. So just mainly our teammates. My mom, she's my fan right there. She's my biggest motivator. She motivates me to like get up in the morning to go train. She's like, make sure you get up and train, even though there's no sports going on right now. Just keep pushing. It's gonna be another season, and you're gonna finish off strong. You're gonna come first, and I just love her energy. So I feed off of her energy, I feed off my teammates' energy. My stepdad, my brothers, everyone, my family, they're just thinking positive. So I plan to be positive too. So yeah, that's how I cope with everything.
For me, I think I got support since day one when school was dismissed in the middle of the semester. Like, people were reaching out to ask whether they can like host me for a while in their house and stuff. But I chose to stay on campus because I prefer like some privacy in my life and stuff. So the support was there, and I really appreciate it. And then when the regulation came out, when like we were asked to go back on, because all our classes were online, if you're going to take only online classes too. So my coach also called and assured me that if they have to like create one like sports class for me to take, so that I'll be in America. They're definitely gonna do that. So I really felt it, and I really like appreciate the love that was shown to me. So I wouldn't say I don't have support here. There's a lot of love and support shown to me throughout these difficult times. Yeah.
Thank you, Wasila. And the next question is along those lines, but it's less about what type of support you're necessarily getting from your athletics community now. This is for all of our student athletes, but I would also invite Yushi and Maya to share what they're hearing from student athletes on campus. As international student athletes, what do you need from your coaches, your administrators, your teammates for your well-being, and to know that you're being heard and that your athletics departments support you?
Going off of what I said in the last question, like, I appreciate the honesty and transparency through it all. It's easy to know that everyone doesn't have the answers right now because everything's changing and you're getting new information each day. But I think just staying honest with me and being like, hey, we don't know anything right now, I'm going to keep you posted. And then throughout this whole process, just checking in on one another, whether that's me checking in on my coaches, because I know it must have been a hard time for them with the uncertainty of having a fall for them as well. I think it's just saying, hey, how are you doing? And asking questions and because not everyone understands. If you're not an international student, you may not understand what we have to go through. So, and I'm open to answering questions and helping others understand. So I think it's just checking in and putting yourself in that situation to try to understand, even if you may not understand beforehand. But yeah, honesty and transparency is the main thing for me.
What I need, I just need to be updated. Mainly, that's all. That's what my institution kind of lacks. Like, we didn't know whether or not we were going to get back at what date and whatnot. Like, everything else for me is fine. I'm just trying to like keep looking forward. But we don't have as much answers as everybody else has. Like, we really don't know. Like, we were told that we were gonna be paying for our housing and everything and whatnot, but it says our classes will be online when school starts back. But my question is, will we be on campus? Even if it's online, it wouldn't make any sense if I paid my housing if I have to, do it online and whatnot. So that was kind of confusing to me. I asked about it. Nothing was like, no answers were given to me. And for my coaches, I don't really speak to my coach as we're in a really good status right now. But when I get in contact with him next time, I'll ask him what are his plans like, because I would like to like get a workout from him at some point. And yeah, that's basically it. Just need a workout, something from my coach so I know that he's okay. I know that he cares about the team, and my institution just need like a little more answers.
I think when I reflect, and sometimes the perspective, after the fact is helpful. So being removed from being a student athlete, I remember being a student athlete and not asking the questions. Like Valentine mentioning that she's checking in with her coaches is very mature and thoughtful. And when I was a student athlete, I don't think I ever checked in with my coaches. So I appreciate that. But I remember like feeling as though my coaches didn't necessarily know what to ask me, but that I didn't want to bother them too with, knowing that I played soccer. So knowing that they had 25 plus people they were taking care of and not wanting to ask the questions. And on the other side, my parents, who were really supportive and wanted the best for me and wanted me to be in the US and do whatever it is that I wanted to pursue, also not fully understanding like the decisions, right? So I often felt, and even now I work in athletics and I can't tell you how many times people back home will ask me what I do and just not get it, right? Because college athletics is completely different. But I think sometimes as an international student and even an administrator, you're kind of in between. Like you don't want to bother people because you have very specific questions that relate to you and your country and your situation. But then even back home, not everybody really understands like, what does this mean, from the university standpoint or from the college athletics standpoint, which I think can be really challenging.
I would just like to add to what Maya said. It definitely was a very challenging task to transition from being a student athlete to now being on the other side of the athletic department, because again, I just graduated last year, and right after my graduation, I got an opportunity to serve as the compliance intern at Morgan State University. So a lot of people there thought that I'm probably a grad student or I'm actually a transfer student athlete. And it was a difficult task because now, you have a perception of the student athlete side, but now you're trying to learn the administrator side. But again, thankful for all the athletic department staff who were so supportive, and any questions I had, they were always there to answer me, because sometimes they were in my shoes as well, as an upcoming intern, knowing that like what all questions do you have, and especially being in a department like compliance where there's so much going on every day. You have something new to learn. Like you just know a part of it. When you're a student athlete, you're related to the paperwork, or whenever you have any issue with the housing or financial aid, you directly go to the compliance person. But now you are the one who has to answer all the student athletes coming up to you. So definitely a challenging task, but again, the support I have been getting from my university as well, from Delaware State and Morgan State, it has been amazing.
I just want to chime in this little thing. It's like, for me, when it comes to support, like I prefer like transparency and accountability, like being open to whatever is happening. As Valentine said, like now in these times, it's difficult for you to get the necessary answers to students and stuff. But then when you come and explain stuff to us, we are adults, you understand. I prefer that, like just explain the situation that you are in. I would definitely understand, but just not saying anything. It's like, you make us think so much about what is going on. So for me, if you communicate whatever that is going on to us, I really appreciate it. And then all of us could be accountable for whatever that is going on. So yeah, that is my definition of support and stuff. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So the next question, your experience and some of the challenges right now are not exclusively on the pandemic, on your status as someone who is visiting the United States as an international student athlete. You're also having to navigate really complex race relations here in the United States. Every country has its own race relations, and they're very unique. So as an international student athlete who has not spent a lifetime living in the United States and understanding that dynamic, and quite frankly, I'm an American, most Americans don't really fully have a grasp of race relations in the United States. Can you talk to us about how you're feeling right now, how you're coping with the racial injustices in this country, particularly in the wake of the recent killings of Black people such as George Floyd, as well as growing anti-immigrant and xenophobic violence that's garnering a lot of national attention. Can you all speak to that?
And for my country, where I stay in Antigua and Barbuda, we suffer from classism and colorism. So it's not more so, it's a type of racism, but it's not more so as though one hates one another. It's just one thinks one is better than the other. And it's very prominent in the Caribbean. It's really bad there. But when it came to the United States of America, I've experienced, like, I'm not me personally, but I've met people from my team who've experienced racism firsthand. One of my teammates experienced just the other day. And they couldn't believe it because, they're an international student too. They just didn't think, like, we never really thought it was like a big thing until we like see it for ourselves. And I just don't like it. I really know how to expound on it more. It's just so baffling to me that it's actually that bad here in the United States. And racism isn't taught, nobody's born racist. You're taught that as you're growing older and as you get mature. So I think the one way for us to stop racism is for this generation, like for us now, to just cut it. Because as generations go by, racism is handed down each generation. So it's up to us to like cut that then and there. So basically that's all I have to say, and justice for Breonna Taylor.
So as Kelvin said, like in Barbados, it's like other people are better than others. Similarly, in Ghana, it's like tribalism. People are thinking they are better than others. It's not like racism. So it's like I didn't have enough knowledge about racism, and it was just that. And with that too, I didn't get to the stage that it could perspective because I was younger, having started working where people would be like, okay, this person's from this tribe. I wouldn't help her. I would just want a person from my own tribe. So that was the thing going on there until I came to the States and I realized that racism was a big deal. Like, you have to be careful not to hurt people. So it made me very conscious of what I'm going to say to other person. Even if I'm kidding, like I'm just saying it to, sarcastically, but I have to be careful. So it made me very self-conscious of whatever that I'm going to say, which is sometimes very like too much to think about. Sometimes you just want to have fun. You just want to have fun with your friends, but you have to be careful not to hurt the other. So it's like, it has prompted me to learn and like to study and know how to communicate things, even if I want to have fun with my friends. So it's like a lot going on. And personally, I haven't like experienced racism directly, but a friend of like close friend of mine experienced. It was really brutal for her. She was really devastated, and the police was called on her just because she was sitting in a house where she was suspected to be very scary or something like that. So it was really crazy, and we have to support her. So I just want like that thing to there shouldn't be that, like, for my opinion, like you shouldn't be thinking you're better than the other, especially on Black people and stuff. So it's like I don't talk about those stuff because I don't want to show like I'm ignorant or something like that. I just want to know my fact before I talk about things like. So I'm very sensitive about those topics and stuff, but I'm learning, and everything is like you just have to learn your stuff and support whenever you need to. So that is me.
Thank you, Wasila. Anyone else like to speak on this question?
I would like to add to that. Well, personally, I never experienced it. And also, I went to a historically Black university. So I would say that going to a historically Black university was an experience for me to learn about how the racism is here. You know, it's not just about experiencing it yourself, but also learning what the situation is in a country you were never at. So I had a lot of friends, and again, because I was at a historically Black university, the population of the African Americans was higher than any other ethnicity. So they would share their stories, and literally everyone had experience at some point, like in their childhood, or they were currently experiencing it. So it was crazy to listen to all those stories, but I'm glad that they shared it with me, so I had an idea of how serious that issue is here. And at the same time, I would not generalize how the situation is in India, but a lot of people have that mentality that, oh, you're going to a historically Black university, you have to be safe. And I never understood that idea, like why would they specifically ask me for going to a Black university to be safe, because they had never been to a Black university, neither they had been to a predominantly white institution. So I don't know if they had any idea of how things are here, but okay, I would just take their words. And trust me, when I came here, this was the place that made me feel home so much, so comfortable. And the diversity I had in my team, you know, it was not just about learning about the African American culture, but also the European culture, because I had teammates from different countries. So a very good experience, but again, personally, I was not at a place where I experienced it.
Ayushi, thank you so much for sharing that perspective from an HBCU. That's really important. Any other comments before we move on to the next question?
Jean, I'll mention, and I think Ayushi has such an interesting story, and you could probably do a webinar just with her to learn about her experience and an HBCU. You know, I think that when I think about this, and again, I think about this as a former student athlete and currently an administrator, I think about the learning, and several of us just kind of talked about that, learning what racism actually means in the United States. Like learning what it means to be a Black person in the United States, learning what it means to be thinking about, you know, having a certain background that's related to oppressing certain people based on certain factors, you know. And I think coming from Israel, I mean, unfortunately, we have our own system of, you know, privilege and oppression, right? And Kelvin mentioned this, and Wasila mentioned this, and I'm sure we could all kind of talk about that. And I think for me, you know, when I think of race relations and when I think of social justice in Israel, like we have our own issues. Like, I grew up in a certain environment that is still dealing with years and a history related to what it means for us, like what it means to be Jewish in this world. And I mean, just even this last week, seeing cases of people being anti-Semitic online, and how that relates to the conversation about racial justice in the United States. So I think it's really complex, and for probably all of us, the difference is that we're coming into this not knowing much about how people in the United States relate to what it means to be Black, or what it means to be a minority. And we each come in with like this other layer of identity, right? We all have multiple identities, and one of them is like, I pass as white in the United States. Like, I don't have any of those conversations, but there's other international students who may not. And they would be subject to similar conversations that Black people who grew up in the United States are going through. So I think it's a really complex and layered conversation, especially for international students and staff members.
Thanks so much, Mai. I appreciate that. And it's interesting. I would imagine another challenge is the fact that so many of our international students are learning about race relations in the U.S. based on false or incomplete understandings of Americans, that they, as part of their learning process, they're learning inaccurate, unfair, biased history and information about race relations. So I appreciate those comments very much. Maya, this next question is for you specifically. Can you talk about how your department is supporting your international student athletes on campus? And can you also talk about the many ways that your international student athletes are contributing to the diversity of your athletics department and just the diversity of your broader athletics community?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start by saying that just even being on this panel, we're probably not doing enough. And I think that's something a lot of us at universities within athletic departments are thinking, not just about international students, but with things that we're changing, from a government standpoint. I think we all need to be doing more. So I think that's probably the most forthcoming that I can be in terms of what we're doing. I think that at many universities, international student athletes, they're a small percent of our student athletes. Like for us, it's about 5 to 7% on a given year of our student athletes. And one of the things that, just even in talking here and reflecting on my own experience, I think that there's a need for international students to advocate for themselves, maybe more than non-international students, more than maybe American students, because there are kind of nuances that people that are in my positions don't necessarily understand and don't necessarily think about kind of on a day-to-day basis, which is part of why I love that, Jean, you all are really focusing on international students. For us, a lot of the communication has been through coaches. So some of the panelists who mentioned that, and Valentine specifically, who mentioned the communication with coaches. And in reality right now, part of the conversations are giving kind of an update and saying, but this is what we know today. And, and then going back and saying, hey, this is what the university is telling us. Like, to hear that anybody guaranteed that things would be okay, to me feels a little, I don't know, that's shaky grounds, because last week we didn't know that things were going to be okay for international students. And I think as much as we can communicate with our international students on where things are at, what we know, what we don't know, I think there's a lot of questions about, like, what is the NCAA going to do if decisions are made, right? What does it do to my eligibility? What does this look like for my financial aid? Like, some of those questions as an athletic department, all we can do is communicate what we know and kind of build on that. And I think that the part of communicating kind of consistently and checking in is really important. I know there's been some questions just around, like, what are additional resources, whether it's mental health related, whether it's strength and conditioning, like what does that look like for an international student? And I think for us, it's recognizing the differences and how this is playing out differently for an international student. Like, as an international student, you're not booking your ticket like a week before, right? You're not getting in the car for most people, unless you're coming maybe from Canada. Most people aren't like booking their ticket and making their arrangements a week before. Most people are booking their tickets well in advance. I mean, my parents, used to book my ticket like 6 months in advance to get kind of the best rate and to make sure that we had all the details. So I think recognizing that at these uncertain times is really important. I mean, that's imperative for our student athletes' well-being, for international student athletes' well-being. And then to the question about what, the richness that international student athletes bring to an athletic department. I mean, there's just recently have been so many reports about the financial impact that not having international students, what that would do for higher education, right? There was a Forbes article that showed that it was something like a $40 billion industry having international students. For us in athletics, I mean, gosh, I think about the experience that I had and the experience that our international students are having and the richness and the perspective that they bring to their teammates, that students bring to their teammates. I look at like the 4 panelists that are with me and, to hear your intro, even though we've met before, like to hear your intro and your bio and what you're doing on your campuses and doing right now is really impressive and incredible. And I think that's what it's about. I mean, that's what higher education is about in the United States. It's not just about the academic component. It's about, the relationships that you gain and the people that you learn from and the experiences that you gain through that. So I think there's a lot to be said to, again, the richness of having international students and having international people around athletics.
Thank you, Maya. Before we get into some of the questions that our participants have submitted, I want to just take a quick minute. If each of you all could just share one sentence about what gives you hope. We've talked a lot about the challenges and the frustrations and the concerns and the worry, but what gives you hope right now in one sentence? Yushi, why don't we start with you? You're in my top left corner here.
I would say if you have come so far, dealt with so many things, you can deal with this too. We are already in the 4th month of the pandemic, and not just specifically about the pandemic, but before coming to the United States, the paperwork we go through, the visa issues we go through. I mean, there were so many times that I felt like giving up because they were just asking too many, the transcripts and send this and send that. So, and that was the point when my parents were like, you have to do all of this on your own so that you have the knowledge of what you have done and the process you have been through just to be in the United States. So I believe international student athletes go through so much, again, coming before the United States, academically, athletically, communicating with the coaches and the communication barrier. So, but we always find a way out of it. You just know how to deal with it when you are put in that situation. Nobody would have thought that you could actually deal with the pandemic the way people are dealing with it right now if you were just given a scenario. But once you are in a situation, you just know how to deal with it, because you have to be out of it. So I believe that because I have done so much and I have come so far, personal life or career-wise, I believe that this is exactly what is keeping me motivated, just to, look back at my experience of coming from a completely different culture and making a spot for myself. I mean, even this opportunity with you guys I'm getting right now, I could not imagine myself standing at a point, before I came to the United States, that I would have a name for myself where I would be recognized by people from the NCAA. So if you have come so far, so many challenges you have had in front of you, then you can definitely deal with this too.
You came this far. There's no point in stopping now. Like, I'm gonna be a first generation college graduate, my family, and I just want to keep doing much more bigger things for my family. That's all I gotta do. Trying to be better.
For me, one thing that has kept me going on is like this saying that says, whatever that is yours will always be yours. You just have to work hard and stay true to yourself. So that is like whenever I'm in a difficult situation, I just think about like, if I have a portion in that thing, I'll definitely get it. If I don't, I'm just gonna just work it and then don't get anything from it. So that is what I always say for myself, like to myself, to encourage me to stuff. Yeah.
For me, I think it's moment by moment is something I go by as taking it as it comes. There's so many moments in a day, whether it's a good one or a bad one, deal with it and then step on and there'll be new moments. And I look forward to, I know that I have hope that I will play again whenever that is. So it's looking forward to that.
Yeah, what gives me hope is the courage that I'm seeing around me of people, you know, challenging the status quo in an effort to make other people's lives better.
Thank you very much. Okay, I know we're running out of time, so I want to get to some questions here before we have to sign off here. So here's one of the first questions that came in. What do you wish, and this is one or two of you can answer this, what do you wish you knew prior to your arrival on campus as an international student athlete?
Alrighty. What I wish I knew was that it takes quadruple the amount of effort. Like, because you have not only the pressure from your family back at home that wants you to like do better, but you also put pressure on yourself because you're not from here. You think like, I have to be better than everyone here to be noticed. But I've come to find out that you will be noticed just as everyone else. I'm not sure how it is at a PWI, but at a HBCU, everyone is noticed. Everyone is giving the same treatment. Because I put a lot of pressure on myself freshman year, and I stressed myself out. But it's not a bad thing that I was pushing to be better than everyone else. It was just that I did it over excessively, and I kind of like caused a lot of like damage to my mental and my emotional state, along with track and field. So just take life one step at a time, and everything will go as planned.
Great, thanks, Kelvin. Here's a good one that you all touched on, but I'd love to get specific thoughts. Someone asked, what are some things that you may be struggling with as an international student that staff don't think about or consider, but they should? And how can staff help in those areas? And Maya, I know you're engaged in those conversations, so from an administrator standpoint, you can also share your thoughts.
I would like to go for this one. So when there was a situation where I had to make a decision whether to stay in the United States or go back to India, and again, I was working at Morgan State, so we were put on the telework, but still there was, you know, a decision had to be made because India was going on the lockdown from March 22nd, and I basically just had 2 to 3 days to make a decision. So that was a time when my supervisor kept insisting on, you need to go back, this is a world crisis, you're not understanding. And I'm like, it's not just like, you know, it's either black or white, like there has to be a gray area for this because again, I am struggling with knowing what is going on in India. My parents were telling me what the situation was. So there are a lot of, you know, angles you have to look into it from. And a lot of people in the athletic department staff, they are not aware of what the situation is in your country. So they are considering what is going on in the United States. But once I'm out of the United States, then I have to see if I'm even allowed back in my country or not. Because that was a time when US had, I mean, always had like it was on the top with the positive cases. So India was not letting any flights from United States, and I could have been quarantined for I don't know how long, and so many risks involved in traveling. Our flights back home are for 16 to 17 hours, more if you have a connecting flight. So I did not want to put myself into that risk where, you know, I have high chances of getting it by traveling rather than just staying home here. So it was a pressure because again, my supervisor kept insisting on it, but I had to explain them that this is what I have to do. Like I have to look at the situation back home as well, which they were completely ignoring.
Valentine, quick question for you specifically. Someone asks, Will you have to quarantine when you arrive back to school? I work in Hawaii and we have a 14-day quarantine extended through September 1st. College students are exempt from this with a negative test prior to arriving and another negative test after arriving. A lot of my student athletes are very anxious about navigating a possible quarantine.
Yeah, so for my specific circumstances, I can only say what I'm going to have to go through, but when I arrive back, I will be self-isolating for 5 days, and then on my 5th day, I'll get tested, and then I'll isolate until my results come back, and if they come back negative, then I can stop my 14-day quarantine. And if it comes back positive, then obviously I'll go into another set of requirements. But that is how it will go through for me. And it is definitely hard. I mean, self-isolating is tricky, but you just have to think, I'm protecting other people and I'm protecting myself. And it's only hopefully a maximum of 10 days that hopefully you'll be in that self-isolation. And then after that, you can get back to normal, the new normal, as we see. And that's how it will go through for me.
That's great. Well, friends, thank you so much for serving as panelists. If we were in person together, I would take this time to invite the audience to give you a round of applause. Since we can't do that, I would invite our audience members to submit a little word or phrase of gratitude to you all through the Q&A function, because we'll be able to have record of that. You all deserve that at the least. Thank you so much for sharing your feedback, your perspective, your experience as international student athletes. I hope we continue to elevate the voices of international student athletes more and more. And so I am so deeply appreciative of you and all that you do. With that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Abigail Edwards, for some closing remarks. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abigail Edwards. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the postgraduate intern in the NCAA Office of Inclusion. On behalf of the Office of Inclusion, I'd like to thank today's panelists, Ayushi Chuhan, Dr. Maya Oseri, Valentine Percy, Kelvin Simon, and Wasila Youssef for joining us today to share your experiences as current and former international student athletes. Finally, I would like to thank you all, our attendees, for taking the time out of your day to join us and for engaging with the panelists by posing such thoughtful and important questions. Recently, international student athletes have had to navigate several challenges: a global pandemic, acts of racial injustice, anti-immigrant and xenophobic violence, and proposed legislation that threaten their ability to return to or stay in the United States. These international student athletes are brave and resilient individuals, and our panelists today are a prime example of that. These international student athletes have fought to forge a way forward and persevere despite overwhelming uncertainty. We, as administrators, coaches, and ultimately members of the athletic community, can serve as vital sources of support for these student athletes throughout these unprecedented times. International students contribute to our athletic communities, institutions, and country in a multitude of ways. As the current events of our world exacerbate the already heavy burden placed upon this population, we have an opportunity to stand with our international student athletes and our international community to ensure that they are supported, welcomed, and know that they belong. In the words of Malala Yousafzai, when the world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful. I encourage you all to amplify the voices of international students and use your own voices to advocate for the international community. Thank you and be well.